your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along. Well, we flew through
Come on, welcome aboard. Indiana Sports Meet coming to you here on this Friday from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Of course, brought to you by the fine folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. 0% sales event going on there right now. You can get more to your door. AndyMooreHonda.com. Also, French Lake Resort and Casino. They're open for business and waiting for you. It's a great place, and it was a great night for Indiana last night. Wow, what a shocker as they go into Iowa City and knock off the number 4 Iowa Hawkeyes 81-69. Look forward to talking about that today. Todd Leary will be on. We'll talk to AJ Guyton later. Let's see, Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com will be on as well. But big unexpected a night, great night for Indiana. Defensively, they shut the door in the second half on Luka Garza in Iowa. Hopefully they can continue that and build off of that. It was a night that Archie Miller could certainly use. The best win in his tenure without question. Number 4 Iowa, other than going up to Michigan State a couple of years ago, and that was a gigantic win. A little different without the crowd, but it counts all the same. A road win against a number 4 team. More importantly, that helps Indiana's resume, which was starting to slide towards the NCAA tournament. They've got to win games. They have 12 games left, counting last night, and I had picked that they went 3-9 the rest of the way. That did not include a win over Iowa. I can promise you that. But that is an added bonus. Not only is it a win, it's a gigantic win that for who it was. Todd Leary will join us now. We'll talk to him in a minute as well. Todd, how you doing, man? I think you're still muted there. There you go. You're on now, brother. You're on now.
There we go. Sorry, you got traveling, Todd, today.
Little unexpected win last night, man. The defensive performance in the second half was just almost shocking.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to hear your intro the way you talked about it, because on the post-game show last night, that's pretty much exactly what I said was, this win was needed. Like, it was needed for a bunch of different reasons. And I don't think any of those are less important than they are for Archie Miller. Like, he needed that win. And yeah, the win a couple years ago at Michigan State, on paper might look like a big win or a bigger win or equivalent, but from a timing standpoint, this is definitely the most important win for Archie Miller. And I know he would deflect all of that onto, it's about the team and getting better and all that, but let's not kid each other. This was a big time win for Archie, and hopefully the team, just like you were mentioning, can build off of this and grab some momentum and keep on trucking. I mean, it could be a big deal for them to be able to do, I hate to say it, but do what Purdue's doing right now and go, get on a little run and go win 3 or 4 or 5 in a row.
And everybody was involved. It wasn't just Trace Jackson Davis, although of course his scoring was big, but Rob Finnessy had a big night, but the freshmen getting involved, Anthony Leal getting involved, Geronimo getting involved, which would sure have liked to have seen that several games ago to get them in there and get them those kind of minutes and those opportunities, but it's there, and it certainly helped out last night.
Yeah, Geronimo was gigantic in this game. Like, he had a couple of plays that were, not plays that look like coming from a guy who has played the limited amount of minutes he's played. And, I specifically talked last night about a big time play he made against the zone where, recognizing what they were in and what they were doing, he caught the ball. He made an immediate pass for an and one opportunity for Trace Jackson Davis. And it was a play that, it was a play that veterans make, that guys that have been in big time situations in the past make. And he looked extremely poised. He didn't look out of place. He had a couple big time dunks. I think it's going to be a situation. It's going to be impossible to keep him off the floor, assuming they don't have foul trouble. He played well enough to earn some minutes moving forward. And like I think you and I have talked about a bunch lately, is it's time to let these guys go ahead and make some mistakes. I'm with you. I wish it had been 5 to 10 games ago they had these opportunities. But I'm ready for Christian Lander to play a whole bunch of more minutes. I'm ready for Geronimo and Leal and these guys to get back in there and continue. I think they're making some progress, and that's obviously a great sign for Indiana.
How big was it for Anthony Leal when he made that three? Because it's on the road. It's at a very, very important time in the game. It tied the game. I mean, you talk about confident. My God, that has just got to run through you like a bolt of lightning.
Yeah, I mean, he's a shooter. He's a scorer. And so it never leaves. Even if, every shooter thinks that he's on a hot streak. And, it doesn't matter if he shot the ball 7 times or that's his first shot of the game. He's a scorer and he's a shooter. And that's, you can definitely tell the guys who are trying to become scorers and guys who are just kind of naturally built that way. And he's one of those guys. He would, that shot's no different to him, whether it ties the ball game or they're up by 20. It's not a lot different. And, he looked comfortable. He looked good out there on the floor. I was very impressed with Archie giving him the time. He didn't shoot immediately when he came in. I don't think he shot at all in the first half. It took him a little while to get, kind of acclimated to the game, and he let it come to him. And to his credit, it was a gigantic shot. The timing of that was beyond important for Indiana.
And for their NCAA tournament resume, I talked about that. That was just a gigantic shot because they have 12 games left, including last night's game. I thought they were going to win 3 of those games. It certainly did not include a win at Iowa. So there's a bonus right there. They're now at 4-4 in the conference, and that's a conference that only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams with a winning record in it. So that really solidified the NCAA tournament resume, and they needed that win desperately because the schedule is horrible coming up. But now you catch a Rutgers team at home, a Rutgers team that's been sliding. So, man, you could really build on this and build something.
Yeah, that's the key to it, I think. I mean, when you look at the schedule as a whole, I'm also not going to just keep flip-flopping back and forth and say, okay, all of a sudden now we are one of the top tier teams in the Big Ten, because before last night, we are definitely one of the bottom tier teams in the Big Ten. And last night can definitely change that and turn the momentum and make it so that Indiana can go on that run. But, I saw you see a lot of the stuff from Mike DeCourcy and the ESPN guys and the guys who are predicting who's going to make the tournament and how many teams each conference is going to get. I understand it's insanely early to be saying all that, but for them to still have Indiana in it right now, to me, is a joke. Like, that's, you're using the term solidify their spot. Like, they've got to go out and grab a spot. They don't have a spot right now with the schedule that's up there right now. I mean, even if they went, if they could go 500 for the rest of the Big Ten schedule, I think they've got a pretty good chance. And that's when a win like last night really does help their resume and help them get that opportunity to play in the tournament. But they're not in the tournament right now. This is a team that's still got to go out and prove themselves. And winning one ball game is a big deal. I'm not trying to look at it, the glass half empty. I promise. I want this team to be really good. Last night gave me a ton of hope, because I will tell you, before last night, I think you're pretty aware, I had zero hope of this team making the NCAA tournament. But there's some hope now. They proved to themselves they could do it. And I said it on the postgame show last night at the very beginning. And I'm telling you, I was prepared last night to talk about all the positives they could take out of a game when they didn't win, because I really thought the offense, especially in the first half, and it continued throughout the game, but I thought they had a different mindset, and they were shooting much earlier in the shot clock. They didn't have as many, dribble handoffs that were just wasting time on the offensive end. They were getting down the floor, getting to the open man, and the first open shot they had, they were taking it. And that shot was going down. And I think those two things can kind of go together a little bit. And so I was impressed with the offense last night. I definitely saw some differences that they were running stuff differently than they were even a week ago. And that, to me, is a big time positive. And that's something where this team, yes, I think can go on a run and go on that 4 to 5 game winning streak. but it's going to be difficult. You and I have talked about it a bunch. Starting with that, I think it's the next ball after this Rutgers game. And when you and I picked it before, I mean, you talked about 3 wins, I talked about 4 wins they might have for the rest of the season. I included this Rutgers game coming up, so that's not going to be a shocker if they win that one. Obviously, neither one of us had the Iowa game penciled in there.
No, and as I look at last night's stats, Trace Jackson Davis 23 points. That's expected. Armand Franklin 11 points, really nice and expected with the way he's been playing. But Al and Rob Finney 14 and 18 points, which is expected but has not been coming. But if you can get that from those guys, this is a different team, but they haven't gotten that, and that's why that I didn't have the confidence. You didn't have the confidence. But there's one other number that just jumps out, and you've already talked about it. But when you look at this number, Jordan Geronimo had 7 points, and yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot, but 7 points from a guy that you get nothing from all year long, and all of a sudden he can become a contributor. That changes. That's a game changer, and it's unbelievable. That 7 points can matter that much, but in this league, it absolutely will.
There is no doubt about that. And they were a big 7 points. Like, they weren't trash baskets. They weren't free throws at the end. Like, they were big-time points at critical moments in the game. At the beginning, in the first half, it was keeping Indiana to hang around. I mean, Indiana was only down by 6 at halftime, and that very easily could have been 12. It also could have been 4. I mean, they had a chance to make free throws at the end and get that thing even lower. But Geronimo's minutes were gigantic. And here's kind of the key to what I think we're talking about with, with those guys. Indiana doesn't have to have Rob Finney score 18. They don't have to have Al Durham score 14. But that group as a collective unit, the guards, the 1, 2, 3 position, no matter who's playing it, need to put those kind of numbers up. And so the pressure's not all on Rob Finney to average 18. It's not on Al Durham to average 14. It's on those 3 players collectively in that, other than Trace and Race, those guys have got to produce. They've got to put up numbers. And that's what I think you're talking about. And it made the game look so much different and so much easier when you had production coming out of the guard position last night. I know they were trying to get the ball to Trace, for the majority of the game, which is the game, obviously. But it made it easier on him when, Rob's knocking down shots early in the game. In the second half, there's a couple of 17-foot jump shots that Al Durham knocked down. Those were huge. Those were gigantic. And, to overcome the free throw shooting last night and still get that win is really amazing. Like, it is. I don't want to all of a sudden act like that's something that this team should count on being able to do on a regular basis, because they do need to get better shooting free throws.
Yeah, you're not going to get a team to go scoreless for 11 minutes very often, and
and
especially when it's proficient as Iowa.
In half, they went on a 5-minute field goal drought in the first half. So this was something like Indiana used to do last year. Remember, Indiana would go on those huge droughts last year, and not just have one in a game, but have multiple droughts in a game. And that's what Iowa did last night. And sure, with an offense like that, you've got to give some of the credit to the defense. And I don't think we'd be crazy to not, recognize the fact that the defense was better tonight also, or last night also. The offense obviously had some glaring differences, but the defense was much better and more connected last night as well.
We got to jump off, take a break. Alec Lasley is going to join us from thehoosier.com. We'll be back. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda and French Lick Resort Casino. Back with more after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering
the commercial for a second. Hey, you want to take a break? And I'll get actually Alex or AJ's not on today. I forgot he's not on today. You want to come back on later?
I'll come on whenever you want.
If you just drive around? All right. I'll text you.
Cool.
Take a break during this segment and so you don't have to drive around. Don't wreck that way. All right. Well,
yeah, if Alec could stay on. Whoops.
We can pick Todd back up. Give him a break. Hello.
What a win.
Yeah, but don't get excited, folks.
No, but that was everything that
they
Archie
haven't
Miller
done all
needed.
year. Yes.
Yep.
But you have to do that again. That's the thing. You're not going to get a team to go scoreless 11 minutes, and you cannot go 21 of 35 at the fucking free throw line. I'm sorry.
And that's better than what, because they were 9 of 21 before Al Durham ripped off 9 of 10 to finish off the game.
Wow.
So it was a lot worse than the 60% that they ended up with, which is obviously bad enough.
Yeah, you can't come back and lose at home to a team that's on a slide. I mean, they're in perfect position right now to get a win, to back-to-back wins that I didn't think they were going to get, and they may sneak into the tournament now.
Yeah, I think everyone was looking at Rutgers as that one game, but if they're able to go 2-0 in this 5-game stretch, that's a huge help.
Job saver.
Yeah, for now. Obviously this can't be like the obviously much different, but like the Michigan State wins of a couple seasons ago, and those were the only 2 big wins that they had in
I don't want to take away credit from them because it was their win. I mean, he got them to play the defense they needed to play, but why? It took you 3.5 years and the heat of losing your job and a week to prepare. That's what it took to get there.
Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon Avenue.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
This one goes out to the one I love.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, here on this Friday. Hope you're set to have a big weekend. I know Indiana is after that win last night in Iowa City. Andy Moore Honda is having a 0% sales event right now. That's never, ever happened. You can get 0% APR financing on your favorite Honda at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. More to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. French Lake Resort and Casino is open for biz, man. It is a beautiful place. Both hotels are spectacular. The casino's open. You got the sports book down there, too, don't forget. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com joining us now. Alec, how you doing, brother?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing fine. Indiana had a big win last night. That makes the people happy. Gigantic win. Todd Leary was on a minute ago. We were talking about that. Big win for them. Big win for Archie Miller. Big win for the program as they're trying to solidify an NCAA tournament spot in a league that does not make that easy, and it's not going to be easy as the schedule does not relent as we move forward. But gigantic win for them last night, to say the least.
Yeah, it was everything and more that I think Indiana fans were really kind of looking for over the past 3.5 seasons that Archie Miller's been there. And it was the best of both worlds. You had that 11 kind of minute stretch in the second half, that 23-3 run where you had the offense clicking, you had the defense clicking, and you really didn't make any mistakes. And that was probably the best 11 minutes of Indiana basketball in the past 3.5 seasons. And it just shows you what Indiana can do. Obviously, they're never going to hold opponents scoreless or without a field goal for 11 minutes, probably again here, but that just shows you what they can really do against one of the top offensive teams, and not just the Big Ten, but the entire country, and the way that they really put it to them, and not only kind of out physical the whole Iowa team, but just the way that they played together and made all the big plays late that they haven't been making over the course of the past couple of months here.
Yeah, and I don't want to put any water on the parade because it's just a gigantic win, and it took great effort and the involvement of so many different players that have not delivered much was huge. I was talking with Todd about that. Race Thompson worked his butt off on defense regarding Luka Garza. But not only him, Jordan Geronimo worked his butt off guarding Luka Garza, 6'6" Jordan Geronimo. But everybody was involved. Anthony Hill hit a three. Christian Landry got minutes as well. He played well, and so it was involvement by everybody. But it stinks that it's taken this long to get that involvement from these guys and getting the point production they did from Al and Rob, your veterans. Man, that's the recipe for winning. But we all knew that. Getting that on a consistent basis, that is the $64,000 question.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think even going into last night, fans were obviously not super hopeful going up against Iowa, and then you find out no Trey Galloway as well, and obviously he's not everything that goes into IU, but you lose another body that's already short, definitely more of a kind of physical player too. But when you look at it, kind of that whole game last night, I think when Indiana, when Race Thompson picked up his fourth foul with 13 minutes left, Indiana was down 7, and I think if you look at that, and then by the time, obviously, Trey Jackson-Davison picked up his fourth foul a couple minutes later. So you had both of those guys with 4 fouls with 8 minutes left in the game. And the way that those 3 freshmen came in, obviously Jordan Geronimo, kind of above the other two, the way that he was able to not only make an impact, obviously defensively, but also score 7 points, which I don't think many people even expected that out of him when you look at what he's able to provide to this team. But he brought the energy that I think everyone was really looking for him to bring since the start of the season. And he really showed that. But more importantly, I think Christian Lander's 4 minutes last night were the best 4 minutes of his Indiana career. And his only stat was 1 steal. And that was it. But more importantly, he didn't take any shots. He didn't force anything. He didn't have any turnovers. And the way that they were able to play in that kind of not only 11-minute stretch without a field goal, but the way that they were able to play with those 3 freshmen on the floor is going to not only provide a lot of confidence for the entire roster, but especially those 3 moving forward.
Yeah, Scott and Forrest hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Scott asked, can they build any momentum? And that is the question that we're all asking. Can they? I think they're in as good a position as they have been all season to do that, because when you come off of a win that's that important, that big on the road, even though it's not a normal season road win, it still counts as a road win. But you've got a Rutgers coming up now that's been reeling. You got them at home where you should be comfortable. And they're in perfect position to do exactly that, Scott. Build momentum, but will they? That's the key.
Yeah, I think if they don't, then we go back to square one and right back to where we were before this Iowa game. And we've seen Indiana have these kind of bigger wins in the past. We just talked about a couple seasons ago when Indiana was able to beat Michigan State both times in the middle of that huge losing streak, but not really able to build on that in any sort of way. And we've seen that the past couple of years as well, where they string together maybe 2 performances against really good teams and then lose one that they really shouldn't. And that obviously sets them back a couple extra games. And we know one game makes a world of difference in the Big Ten. So if they're able to build off of this, get that win against Rutgers, that not only sets themselves up for, a really strong finish, but a 2-0 start in this 5-game stretch where I don't think a lot of fans really thought Indiana was going to get more than maybe 1 win.
Yeah, Scott says if they don't, then Archie goes back on the hot seat. Well, he hasn't left the hot seat yet, I don't think. But Forrest Geronimo is very athletic, physical. Race Thompson played a great game. Box score doesn't show it. He was best on defense. Yeah, I talked about that a minute ago, rewatching the game. He worked his tail off, man. But that's the kind of effort you got to get every night. And that's the thing. We're raving about this, as it should be, because it was a great win. But, man, we're deep into the season to be talking about this performance, and you've got opportunities left, but and you just stay positive, and hopefully they can continue to do this. There are other questions. Why is it? Why now? Why did it take this long and all that stuff? But just stay positive and move forward. But they've got to sustain that, and that's the question. And they haven't, and we haven't seen them do that. But how? What can they do to change it? Archie's got to get that changed, and that's on him to do that. He got that effort out of him last night. He got exactly what he needed. He had a week to prepare for it. Now you don't have as much to go, but the momentum should carry you into Sunday.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was necessarily the week off putting in a lot of prep for Iowa. It was more so them being able to actually get back just to practicing. And he had talked about leading up to this week off, just the fact that they were kind of limping through the weeks with not a lot of actual true practice time and true time to kind of focus on getting better. And that's a difficult thing to do when you're really not putting in all of that effort into practice and you're more just kind of managing the team, which he said was kind of a major point of emphasis, obviously with the injuries that they've had. So the fact that they were able to have that full week off without a game, get back to actually focusing on what they were doing well, which was obviously on the defensive end, that showed last night. And I think, one important thing for everyone on the team is now they see when they buy into focusing 110% on all of the little things and putting forth all of the effort on the defensive end, it not only sparks their offensive runs, but they can see now that they can compete against anyone in not only the Big Ten, but the entire country if they play that way. So I think that was more of a mental boost than anything, just seeing that they're able to do that and, put forth the effort for 40 minutes and come back, obviously, from basically double digits with halfway left in the game there.
And their next opponent, Rutgers, we talked about, they lose last night on the road to Penn State, a Penn State team that's not been playing that well either, 75-67. Rutgers is just reeling. Man, they were a team that was looking strong, were ranked, and they just hit the skid. Of course, you got the injury to, was it Ron?
Ron Harper Jr. Yeah.
Ron Harper Jr., yeah. It's just kill. It's like they just died since they're almost dying on the vine since that injury.
Yeah, between that, he was off to, a lot of people wanted to put him kind of in that All-American conversation. And ever since that injury, they've completely fallen apart. They had an injury also to Jacob Young. I think it was in the Ohio State game. They were up by double digits, and that's kind of when things turned. They were up by double digits against Ohio State a couple of weeks back without Harper, and Jacob Young goes up for a layup dunk and falls pretty hard on his side and his back, missed the rest of that game. That kind of flipped the script for them, and he's their best playmaker offensively, and I don't think he's been right either since, just because you really have no off days in the Big Ten, as we've obviously been able to see up to this point. So if you have a nagging injury, like a lot of people will at this point in the season, it's tough to recover from that. And obviously if you keep losing games, it's tough to put forth that extra effort when you really don't know how much more you can give when you see, 3-4 losses pile up and, the blink of an eye, you were ranked top 15 in the country, talking about, 1 or 2 more wins and we could possibly be top 10. And then now you're just looking for any sort of positives, which they have not been able to get.
Indiana's next 3 games after that Rutgers game on Sunday then becomes number 7 Michigan, number 22 Illinois, and number 4 Iowa again back here in Bloomington. So there's that tough stretch that is coming up. You have to get that win against Rutgers, which that should not be a problem, really, the way they're playing. Because after that, again, you got to fit number 15 Ohio State, number 17 Minnesota. It's laughable what the schedule is, but the opportunity, and now more importantly, the fact that this team can win. We know that they can win. Will they? And it's up to them, and it's on their shoulders to get it done. But man, oh man, it's a tough road to sled here for them. But the opportunities are there, but the effort was tremendous that they got last night. Michigan takes on Purdue tonight. Purdue, a team that has been trending upward. Can they continue? Michigan finally got beat in the Big Ten now, so they're we know they're beatable, but, man, that's a big, important game tonight between those two.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Michigan's kind of looking at it as not so much a way to separate themselves, just because obviously Iowa lost last night and they were the top 2 teams there. But, again, Michigan's looked as good as it gets in the Big Ten. And then basically as good as it gets in the entire country outside of that one loss to Minnesota, who's a completely different team at home than they are away. So, Michigan, I think they'll end up taking down Purdue just because I think Michigan's one of the most complete teams when you look at both offensively and defensively, something that Iowa, when you look at them offensively, they're definitely one of the most complete teams, but defensively they have a lot of chinks in the armor that they're kind of still working out. But Michigan, they focus first on defense, and that makes them into a much better offensive team. And I think that's just one thing that they've really bought into, and they have 3-4 really, really, really solid perimeter defenders that you really don't find on a college team at this level.
Purdue, I think the big difference for them is being the production they're getting from their freshmen. Because if you get freshmen that actively contribute a game in, game out, that's going to make a gigantic difference. And it has. It's lifted them from a team towards the bottom to right now they're sitting at 4th in the Big Ten at 6-3 and 11-5 overall.
Yeah, Jaden Ivey has been tremendous over the last few games. Kind of started off a little rough in his college career here, but that game winner, I think, over Ohio State last couple days ago was huge for them. Not only to continue to carry on that winning streak that they're on, but huge for Jaden Ivey. And I think if he's able to kind of take his play to the next level, that inside out game that they have with those perimeter players, and then obviously Travion Williams inside, that's going to be extremely difficult to stop when you have that group of players on the perimeter who can kind of knock down any sort of shot. But yeah, you throw in Brandon Newman in there, the redshirt freshman, who's that redshirt year really is paying off now with his ability to kind of make plays off of the bounce and make plays on the perimeter. But the one guy that I like a lot in that system, who really hasn't played a whole lot, is Ethan Morton too, another freshman who just kind of adds to that depth in that freshman class that's going to be really good in the backcourt for 3-4 seasons here. But Purdue's a tough team to beat on the road, at home, as they've showed. And I mean, it should be a good game. Like I said, I think Michigan will end up pulling that off just because they're a little bit more experienced on kind of in all assets of the game.
Scott hit the Andy Moore Honda hotline and asked, did the offensive philosophy look any different to you guys? It's funny you asked that question because in rewatching the game, I remember thinking that very thing. Wow, that looked purposeful. They were doing things that actually looked purposeful. So, yes, to me, it looked like they had a rhyme and a reason to what they were doing offensively last night, which is not something I can say generally. They actually looked like they were making cuts, passes off of cuts. And so, yes, Scott, in my opinion, I did see that.
And one thing I think kind of went into that is Iowa played zone most of the night. All right. So you have to be a lot more active than just kind of standing around and looking for someone to beat someone off with the dribble, which is what Indiana kind of tends to do when teams play man against them and just kind of pack it in and focus on Trace Jackson Davis. But I think the one thing that we found out is Indiana is a much better zone offensive team because of the options that they have in those flashers around the free throw line. All of those kind of stretch fours, even kind of wings, are really good passers. And I think that's more a testament to show kind of the overall playmaking ability that the team has outside of, a Rob Finney or an Al Durham, who can make plays for others, but aren't necessarily the true playmakers that you need out of the backcourt. But Race Thompson made a couple big time passes out of the free throw lane. Trace Jackson Davis did. Even Rob Finney, when he kind of got in to the free throw line, he was able to create and make a couple passes outside. But I don't necessarily know if it was a total switch in offensive philosophy. I think it was just more them being able to really adapt to the defense that Iowa was playing, because we saw at the end of the game when Iowa was pressing that offense and that zone or that offensive pressure was not very good. It looked like they were trying to kind of toss the game away with a couple lackadaisical passes and turnovers there at the end. But the offense obviously looked a lot better, but that also goes into shots were falling too. So who knows if they'll be able to obviously translate that into the next game.
Indiana Creekwalker follows as well, says we need to build momentum and beat Rutgers now. Yeah. Rob Finney's game last night, great game for him. And he looked locked in. He looked different. There was definite look
And again, I don't want to be negative, but the first thing is I have to ask, why now? It's been a long time. But anyway, you could tell he was locked in. He locked in defensively, even made a steal toward the end for an easy lay-in off of a lazy pass by Iowa, but just the awareness. He was just locked in, and I'm like, okay, can you do that every game? That's what's so needed.
Yeah, and I think people are kind of quick to forget he was doing that the couple games leading up to Purdue. Then obviously he had the 16 points in the first half against Nebraska, tweaks his knee, and kind of wasn't the same going into that Purdue game. And he looked much different.
You got to hit a breakthrough
now than he did against Purdue. But he looked a lot of the same kind of player that we saw against Nebraska. And that really is something that if he plays like that again, if he doesn't need to score 18 a game or hit 4 threes a game, but if he's able to really kind of provide some sort of offensive spark around 10, 12 points a game consistently, that's going to go a long way in helping Indiana offensively.
Hey, let's the Indiana Sports Beat. We got plenty more coming up. Alec Lasley's with us right now. We've got more to get to. We got to hit a break. Be back with more as Andy Moore Honda. Right there, you go. Back with plenty more from Andy Moore Honda. But Indiana Sports Beat back with more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. But I'm not covering the Hoosiers. You can
I can probably stay for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then I got to hop on
don't worry about it.
Okay.
You just go.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right, brother. Thank you. Sorry I didn't get to say goodbye to you then on the air.
No, you're good. No worries. I'll talk to you later.
We got Burdell had a deal. He had to go to LA. He can't be on today. And let's see.
If you've got any clips you can pull off the website, I could play those.
Yep. And I got to get Todd back on too.
Could do a clip or two.
Do the opening statement, Archie's opening statement.
Okay.
Then I'll get Todd.
From Coach, you want to go ahead?
Well, I'm proud of our guys. I'm really
There he is. Where are you traveling today?
Cleveland, Tennessee. I'm actually on my way back. I was there early this morning. It is as far south as you can get. I actually go into Georgia a little bit and then angle back into Tennessee. So yeah, it's down there.
Should have taken Jessica with you.
Yeah, she could have spoken the language to him down here for sure. They don't understand me. They act like I'm from France. Yep.
France. Oh man.
Yep.
Cleveland, Tennessee.
So on your range, over a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 on Vernon Avenue.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Hit me with your best shot. Why don't you hit me with your best shot? Hit me with your
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, here on this Friday, man. I'm ready for the weekend. I hope you are. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington's got a 0% sales event right now. They're ready for you. Fritz Lick is open and ready for you as well. Todd Leary back with us. Man, that was fun last night. Those kind of games make you want to get out there and shoot, be out there on the court.
Yeah, the excitement of thinking about the games and that stuff. It's always so much fun. Like I still get chills and stuff thinking about that. But then I remember how old I am, and I start thinking about the next morning and what your knees and ankles and toes feel like and all that. And boy, I don't miss that part of it.
Forrest hit us up on the Andy Moore hotline and said that he's clueless about basketball, but the biggest difference in their play last night was
he's a Purdue fan.
Everybody played. But everybody played with intensity and were physical. And everybody was involved. I would agree with that. It was a game that everybody was involved.
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate the comments coming from West Lafayette. That's awesome that you're getting those coming in. But
hey, actually, he's in Georgia. He's down there by you.
Then he's a football guy, of course. Makes sense. But I mean, yeah, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, obviously, to come up with that analogy. And looking at last night, everybody looked like they were involved and having fun and playing. That's not easy to accomplish when you're kind of in the rut that this team has been in. So you got to give all kinds and tons of credit to their ability to get themselves ready to play. It's not easy. I know no one probably expected, other than, those immediate people traveling with the team, nobody really expected them to have a chance to win. And if you go into the game, thinking that, then obviously you don't have a chance. But this team, they were engaged. They were all excited. And, you saw, there was so many times, I'm sure people commented on it a bunch. It was so late, I didn't read Twitter comments and stuff like that. But to see Trace Jackson Davis and how engaged, even with foul trouble, he was with Jordan Geronimo and even Race Thompson, telling them, where to cut and what to do. And during a huddle, Trace Jackson Davis was a leader last night, even when he wasn't on the court. And man, that's not something you can really teach. That's just kind of a gift that he has. But the whole team was engaged. It's a great comment.
Yeah, I was talking to Alec Lasley in the previous segment. Rob Finney, that's the thing I noticed about him. He was just locked in all night. He locked in defensively, locked in every way, and that's what they need from him. But Alec mentioned that he seemed like he was heading in that direction before he tweaked his knee before back. But they need him locked in because that's a difference maker.
Yeah, it really is. And it's not going to be an easy turnaround for him. There were still several moments last night when I say that, I'm not trying to be negative about him. Rob Finney is a true old school, old fashioned point guard. He's not a scoring guard. He's not a shooter. He doesn't have a scorer's mentality. He has a game management mentality. And that's not a negative, but it is a negative when you're trying to ask him to do other things that are kind of outside his realm of comfortability. And so, I mean, asking him to score, there was times last night when he drove the ball into the lane, and as a scorer, you would have figured out a way to get a shot up. I mean, some people would call it forcing it. Some people would call it, just a scorer's mentality. And he backed it back out, and it's not totally comfortable and natural coming to him yet. But he's definitely making strides, and I think Alex right on the money in saying that he was definitely trying to put more effort into being a scoring guard prior to tweaking his knee a little bit, and now maybe it's taking him a couple games to get back into it. But last night he definitely made big strides in becoming more of a scorer.
Tim hit us up on the Moore Honda hotline and asked, this is a great question, if you could take one former player and add to the current team to help make the tournament, who would that be?
Well, I mean,
there's so many different things you could do.
Yeah.
But for this, I would think shooter. I would think of Todd Leary. I would think of anybody that was a shooter. Any of the shooters, you would put any shooter on this team, makes them dangerous. That's why I know so many people are anxious to see if Parker Stewart is ever going to be able to join this team. But somebody's got to hit free throws, though.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
Maybe Pat Graham. Maybe Pat Graham's the guy you put on this team so he can hit some free throws.
I think a guy. This is going to be such an obvious answer, and everybody'd be like, well, yeah, sure, of course you would. But, I mean, if you could add a Calbert Chaney to this type of team, you know, he would bring a lot more stuff to them than just the ability to knock down a shot. Now, if you're just going to, I think Jordan Holes would probably be the one guy, if you're going to talk about a shooter and a guy that would, you know, kind of in the modern era, the guy that would help them out the quickest. I think a Jordan Holes would be, because he would spread the floor a lot more. You know, he would definitely make it easier on Trace Jackson Davis. But a guy like Calvert, who can do everything, you know, who can rebound, who can play defense, who can knock down jump shots, who makes his free throws, who always makes the smart play. He doesn't turn the ball over. You know, a guy like that, I think probably would be, you know, you would love to say Alford. You know, growing up, he was, you know, Alford in our age era was kind of the man. But you know, that's because he had a whole team full of guys screening for him. This team's not made up that way. So, I mean, I don't know that he would be the ideal guy. I think Jordan Holes would be a good shooter to add to it. But from an all-around standpoint in game, you know, Tim, I'm going to take the easy road here, and I'm going to say a guy like Calvert, which Calvert would make every team he was on better. So it's a pretty easy answer when it comes to that for me.
You ain't lying about that. Joker hit us up on the text line as well. Where'd his go? So this team had a week to prepare for this game. Great showing. They play Sunday and then have a week off before Michigan. That's great to have a week to prepare for Michigan. Hopefully they play similar. Todd should know about preparation. Coach Snyder, as I recall, lost very few games when he had a week to prepare. It's too long, Joker. They seemed much more confident last night. Yeah, how that week, how important was that? Just of having practice, not preparing for a specific team. This is not football, but having a week to work on things. How important was that?
Well, you know, I think last night it showed how important it was for Indiana. But, you know, you have heard me comment numerous times about, you know, I'm not really sure what this team's game plan is coming into some games. Like, you know, last night, I think a lot of people would have said, okay, going into Iowa, I think Indiana's going to really need to try to slow it down because Iowa's so good offensively and, you know, just take them out of their rhythm. And I think Indiana did the exact opposite, which is exactly what Coach Knight would have done. And that is go in and play to your strengths and get shots up and get the first open look that you take. You're not going to have the opportunity to, you know, pass it around all the time. If you get an open look, you got to take it. And so, in answer to the question, I think the ability to set up a game plan is always important when you've got a full week to kind of implement it. I'm not sure I've not loved Indiana's game plans, and I've not really even been able to identify too many of them in prior games. But you definitely could last night. I mean, you could see some strategies defensively they were employing. You could also see offensively they were working to, get early shots and get the ball up. The play is always going to be to get Trace Jackson Davis the ball. But you can't run offense for 20 seconds and give him the ball with 10 seconds left and expect him to always be able to get a good shot off. And I think last night's the first time I've really noticed them going ahead and taking that early shot. Let Trace Jackson Davis get offensive rebounds. And obviously, once teams start adjusting to that, then you could get him the ball more. And you know, that week is a big difference when you set up a good game plan. And last night's game plan was terrific.
Van Pasterman says that Calvert can be on any team. Jennifer agrees with you as well. Oh man, I was going to say something. Oh yeah, the great. They're playing great, but I guess the question is why did it take this long? Why did it take this week of practice to have a game plan that was identifiable? That it was so identifiable that we've had comments on it already. People asking that very question. And I'm like, yeah, and I remember thinking during the game, watching, wow, that looked purposeful. And it just makes you scratch your head that you have to be this far in for that to be seen. And that's a little curious and makes you shrug your shoulders a little bit. But going forward, if they can continue that, it'll be great. But is that going to stay there? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in all honesty, you know, I think the guy that makes $4 million a year is probably the only one that can answer that question. And you know, it's Archie Miller's job to get this team ready to play. Every team's different. You know, you don't go into a year, you know, with a cookie cutter program. You've got to adapt some things, and maybe it's just taking a little while to figure out, you know, how to get the most out of these guys. But you know, I'm not jumping. I'm on the bandwagon. I'm always on the bandwagon. But right now, I feel a whole lot better about where that wagon's going than I did before yesterday, because I'm not going to waver from being an Indiana fan, but I just didn't like watching this team play. They were not fun to watch. And last night's team was fun to watch. And that's not just because they won. I promise you, I was planning, in the post-game show last night, I was planning on, after watching 30 minutes of basketball and they were down by 9, I was planning on talking how many positives you could take out of a loss, because I still thought they played really well. I thought there were some definite noticeable differences that they were deploring. I liked the game plan. I liked the attitudes. I liked the way guys were going about things. And I was totally prepared to talk about you can take some positives out of a loss. And then they just clamped it down defensively and made some shots offensively and made timely plays. We get on them when they don't. So let's give them the credit when they do it. And the hardest thing to do right now is, celebrate that for all of about 12 hours until you get home and get some rest. And then today is a new day. You got to forget, you can't think good about how you played yesterday right now. They've got to start looking at Sunday right now. And I'm sure they're doing that.
Trey Galloway being out, how did that affect those other 3 freshmen? Because they certainly were also locked in, but maybe it had to do with the week of practice. But him not being in there, are they thinking, hey, this is more opportunity for us, we're going to get the chance, or we have to step up? What are those guys thinking? What's going through their head?
Man, I tell you what, was it only me? Did anyone else notice that the announcers last night, they acted like Trey Galloway not being a part of the team last night was like LeBron being gone. Like, they literally acted like, at one point in time, they literally described Trey Galloway as a guy who would have guarded Luka Garza in the game last night as an extra big body. And I just wanted to be like, these guys have not watched Indiana play at all year long. Like, they don't even know who Trey Galloway is. But in answer to your question about the other freshmen, that's the way it kind of looks on paper, I think. And unless you've been in the locker rooms and kind of seen how these things take place, those guys don't think a whole lot about that. Now, they don't look at it from a Trey Galloway standpoint. They look at it from hey, Trey Galloway's averaging 22 minutes a game. Somebody's going to have to step up or get to step up and play, take over those 22 minutes. And if I get the opportunity, I'm going to take advantage of it and try to do the best to take advantage of it. And boy, George Geronimo did last night. Anthony Leal's shot was huge, but Jordan Geronimo showed something last night that I don't think is just, something that the coaches are going to think, he helped them out last night. I think he put himself in a position a lot like what we saw Race Thompson do last year, where you're going to have to figure out a way to get him some minutes, because he played really, really well last night. Not at all like a guy who's played as few minutes as he has.
Yeah, that's impressive. And if those guys can continue to develop, that'll also alter how this season goes, because with the small rotation that Archie has maintained this year, you have to get production from all these guys, because at some night, somebody's not going to produce. And so somebody has to always be there. And you mentioned earlier, you don't always have to get 18 and 14 out of Rob and Al, but you need it out of one of them, I think. And one of them always kind of needs to be there stepping up.
Yeah, you need it out of the group collectively, and that's for sure. But I think one of the big things with this team, and you bring up a great point in talking about, this is what I think we all expected out of this team, or out of these freshmen and the team as a unit prior to the season starting. We expected them to play just like they played last night. Maybe some of the faces would be different. I think we expected Lander to maybe have the same game that Finney had last night. But as a group, this is the team that we expected to see. And that's how I think we all anticipated they would play going into the season. It's just not been that many games that they've had that look. And hopefully this is the first step of them doing that on a regular basis.
And I know we've talked about Geronimo, but how about his effort on defense on Luka Garza? He's a guy's a freshman who, like I always like to say, he thought he was going to be playing an NAIA ball someplace before he got the offer from Indiana, and now he's guarding the Player of the Year and doing a damn fine job of it last night.
Yeah, there's some circumstances. This is what is always funny is, you could take the best big man defender in the country, and Luka Garza is going to make a couple of moves that make him look bad. Like, he's just that good. He's got that many different moves. And there was one play last night. Luka Garza he made a spin move on Trace Jackson Davis, who is a good defender. He made a spin move on him and made him look silly. And he just has that ability to do that. But when you talk about just being able to have that body to throw in there, last night's the first time I really thought to myself, they are really missing Joey Brunk. They really need his big defense. And you know what? Like, I don't want to say they still couldn't have used it, but Jordan Geronimo made that void a lot less noticeable last night. And there's plenty of big men in this league that he's going to have the opportunity to get in there and bang against. And he proved he's only get better. I think we're going to be surprised.
Yeah, his play has been excellent, surprising, and hopefully they can continue as they move on. And we're going to continue. We're going to take a break before we do, though. I appreciate you guys hanging in with us here in Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington and French Lake Resort Casino. We're back with more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find
hours of driving. Where are you now? Where are you now? You can't hear me.
Hello?
Yep, I'm still here. Yep. Where are you now? Now I lost you. There you're back.
Back up. He left again.
I may have lost it. Sunday. So what time do they play Sunday? At noon? Oh, no. Oh, 2. It's at 2. 2 o'clock.
Chat is very active today, I see.
Oh, yeah, man. It's very.
Down the Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6.
I thought we just set up
part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon Avenue.
I was wondering where you were.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Yeah, you can stop by Bubba's. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you here on this Friday. I hope you're getting ready for the weekend. Big plans. Indiana doesn't play again until Sunday, 2 o'clock game. I thought that was at noon, but it's 2 o'clock, so we'll get to sleep in a little bit. Enjoy a semi-longer weekend. The Pac-12 looking for a new commissioner as they're parting ways with their commissioner. Other news out there.
Wonder if the Big Ten will follow suit on that one.
Yeah, just laughing.
Been a rough
well,
year for commissioners.
Yeah, and his contract was not scheduled to end until next year, so that's an early, mutually agreed upon departure. So there's that going on. I don't know what all that's all about. I have to read more into that. But
Well,
the Pac-12 just
I'm not going to pile on here, but I mean, Big Ten ended up making the right decision in the long run, but it was a rough road.
Oh, it could have been very, very bad. The Pac-12, they're on the West Coast, so it makes it difficult because the majority of listening and all the watchers, all that East Coast and all that stuff. But they don't. The football championship series, they're not a part of that. They're not making a lot of noise, I don't think, nationally. They're just kind of getting left out a little bit. Basketball's not that great. UCLA's doing great. They're 6-0 now, but I don't know how strong the Pac-12 really is.
That's because it isn't.
That's what I'm saying.
Weak. And so, I mean, it was weak in football. It's also weak in basketball. I mean, they're just not competing nationally. And they got to make some changes. I don't think I think the only person in the world that would argue with that statement is Bill Walton.
Yes, Conference of Champions.
Yeah, Conference of Champions. Yeah, right. Yeah.
He's funny.
As long as they have their own championship, as long as they have that tiny little championship over there, yeah, it is the Conference of Champions, but not nationally.
But yeah, that's I don't know what that's all about, but anyway, but yeah, Kevin Warren's kind of kept a pretty low profile.
Smart.
I guarantee it, because if you can't say something smart, don't say anything at all. But Indiana coming up Sunday, I can't decide. People are saying that game's at noon. It's listed as 2 on the schedule, but a couple people said it's noon. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, they play Sunday regardless.
Either way, the Breakfast Club at Yogi's is probably the place to be prior to that game.
Oh man. That sounds good right now.
It is so good. I mean, if you haven't had it, I suggest you make a trip and join us for the game on Sunday because it's worth it.
Oh man, that's perfect. You do brunch. Oh man, that's a great idea. That's why you're the brains. Man,
no, that's why I'm fat.
Time?
That's why I'm fat, because I think about how to incorporate a meal with every outing that we do.
Oh man, I had mini corn dogs yesterday. I had fried pickles. I had oh my gosh, I had the cheese curds at Yogi's. The waitress said, "Oh, they're spicy." They weren't spicy. They were hot. I was like, man, hot. They'll light you up. They'll light you up.
Yeah,
Rutgers comes in. You got Purdue.
Well, people's
Michigan
palates are all
tonight.
different when it comes to that, but I think everybody's going to say those are hot.
I promise you, because I can eat. I like hot, spicy food, but I was like, that ain't spicy. That's hot. Man, those suckers are. But Michigan, Purdue tonight. Michigan finally gets beat. They're beatable. Purdue trending upward, but that's a tough road to hoe for the Boilers there.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's not just for the Boilers. I mean, Michigan is, there's probably 4 or 5 teams that I truly think are separated from the whole rest of the nation as far as how good they are. And Michigan is one of those teams. I don't even think Iowa is one of those teams, but I think Michigan is definitely one of those teams. And they just, at every single position, they are so solid, and they go a solid 8 deep before there's any real drop off on guys who come out on the floor. So not only are they talented with their starting 5, their first 3 that come off the bench would literally start on every single team in the Big Ten. And I have no issue in saying that. All 3 of those guys would start at every other team in the Big Ten. So Michigan's just, they're that good. And when they play well, when they shoot the ball well, they're as good as Gonzaga. They're as good as Baylor. And so, they're really the best team in the Big Ten, in my opinion. And this is a tough one for Purdue, even though it's at home. But it'd be a tough game for whoever plays them. I mean, Indiana's going to get them right after that. So it's going to be a battle.
Yeah, and that's Indiana, their game that they had last night. I think that they can use some of that against Michigan. But Michigan and Iowa are built very differently. Constructed differently, they play differently. What's Indiana going to have to do against a Michigan team to have the same success they had last night?
Well, shoot the ball. Shoot the ball even better than they did last night. Continue to incorporate the 3-pointer into the game plan and knock it down. And then obviously, you've got to have an exceptional showing or outing in order to beat a team like Michigan. So it would take, if Indiana shot 35 free throws last night, it would take a 30 out of 35 performance to beat a team like Michigan, whether it's home or away. It's going to take that kind of performance. Now, I'm not saying they have to make 30 free throws, but I'm saying they've got to have some type of exceptional performance. Make a dozen three-pointers. Shoot 20 plus free throws and make 80% of them. It's going to take that kind of performance to beat a team like Michigan. Otherwise, they just have so many weapons. They make it incredibly difficult to stop them.
Scott hit us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline and said, Archie said on the pregame that they practiced before, during, and after practice all week on free throws last week. So what does that tell you when you see a performance like that? We know virtually anybody can shoot a free throw, but it's not this is mental. This is not mechanics. I don't know. Is it the pressure? You don't have the fans there, so you don't have the noise. You don't have people standing behind you. Is it simply pressure?
No, so I'm going to give like the simple, easy answer to this for me. And that is, I mentioned a little while ago about Rob Finney. Rob Finney's not a natural born scorer. Okay. And so he doesn't have that mentality. Neither does Al Durham, neither does Armand Franklin, nor Trace Jackson Davis. Trace Jackson Davis is a great player. He's not a great scorer. He scores a lot, but he's not a great scorer. So he doesn't just have great touch shooting the ball. And I'll tell you, here's a good gauge. And I'm not just saying it from last night. I noticed it with this Indiana team. This is 2 or 3 years in a row I've noticed this with this Indiana team. Teams that miss the second free throw, whether they make or miss the first one, when you have multiple guys who continue to miss the second free throw of 2, they're generally not good shooters. They're not guys who are confident shooters at knocking down shots. And Indiana last night, I think, had 4 different players that within the scheme of the entire ball game missed the second free throw at some point in time. And that may sound dumb, like how do you gauge it off of that? But, if you took nationally over the history of basketball, the percentages, if guys shoot 2 free throws, the percentage of the second free throw is significantly higher than the first free throw. Obviously, because you get to practice one and then you get the touch a little bit and you make the second one. But guys who miss the second one, I've always kind of had this in the back of my head that guys who miss the second one are generally not good shooters. I mean, Jordan Holes is even going to miss the second one on occasion, but not regularly and not very often. And I'd probably throw it out there and say, Jordan Holes on his second free throw, Steve Alford on his second free throw in his career is probably a 98% free throw shooter. And the guys on this team are probably in the 70s.
That's a great point. I never thought about that because you get into a rhythm, and a guy that's hitting 2 and 2, he's rhythmic, just shooting the same thing. And great point for this team. But so is it? If then that says that it kind of is mechanics, somewhat. What can they do to change it? These guys, they're good enough shooters that they should be able to hit free throws. What do they do to alter that? I mean, it can't simply be practice, or is it?
Yeah, I always have said you could practice all you want. You're going to get better, even if your mechanics are bad. If you practice it enough, you're going to get better at it. You're going to continue to improve at it. But I think Indiana is at the point they've got some mechanical issues. They've got some fundamental shooting issues, and until those are corrected, they could practice till the cows come home, and they're not going to become a really, really good free throw shooting team. They're not going to become good free throw shooters as individuals. They will get better, but they're never going to get. I mean, they've got some glaring flaws. I could go into detail about what they are, but when I hear them say that they practice free throws before, during, and after, if they're practicing the same flaws that they've had, I don't know how much good it's doing them, and they're proving that. I mean, I'm not trying to advocate for anything here. I'm just saying until somebody gets in there and shows them what they're doing wrong, I'm not sure they're going to be able to correct it.
I see a lot of fans make this comment, and I've just kind of ignored it most of the time, but I'm going to ask the question. Should they
could, Archie, bring in someone, a shooting specialist, if they're having a problem, but maybe it's something that they're not seeing as coaches. I don't know, like you're just bringing up, and to just work with them. I know that's not something you're going to do publicly, but something needs to change. I mean, is that crazy to think to do that?
I'm sorry. I'm in the mountains down here, and you cut out for exactly the meat and potatoes of what that question was. So
perfect. No, it's good. What I was asking is, I see a lot of fans talk about, well, Indiana needs to bring in a shooting coach, blah blah blah, shot doctor, and all that junk.
Yeah.
But is there some truth to maybe they should talk to somebody that's a shooting specialist? Something. Maybe it's something that they're not seeing. Obviously, that you're talking about. Is it crazy to do that?
How emphatic? Here's what a lot of people don't understand. So
dang it, we just lost him right when he's getting the meat and potatoes of his. We'll get him back on here, but let him know, Will, that he's not with us right now. But he's in the mountains. But yeah, it's kind of crazy because if you're a coach making $3.5 million, you should not need anyone to come in and work with you. But maybe it's something this team does need. Maybe I don't know. Todd is an expert. He's an expert shooter. Look forward to hearing what he's going to say about that. But it's definitely something that they have to cure. I mean, that last night's win is great, and like I said, I'm not going to be negative about it. But man, you can't expect to win games shooting 60% at the free throw line when you're getting 35 opportunities. It's one thing to shoot 60% if you're shooting 6 out of 10, but when you're tripling those opportunities, that's not gonna help you down the road. So, but yeah, it's crazy. You would sure think that you would have a staff that could catch the flaws, fix the flaws. But great question. Curious is something this team could do. But I look forward to Todd's answer on that coming back up. But I also mentioned that the big Pac-12 is parting ways with their commissioner a year before his contract was supposed to run out. So things obviously not going well out there, and that's a big move, man. You don't see conferences fire a commissioner basically, and that's in essence what's going on. Hey, it's break time anyway, so we got to hit a break. Perfect timing. We'll be back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. 0% sales event going on right now. Get out there to Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Get 0% APR financing, or you can get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. Fritz Lick Resort and Casino open for business, waiting for you to come down. The casino's open, both the hotels, Fritz Lick and West Baden, looking spectacular. I was down there last weekend. It was incredible, but beautiful, beautiful place. We got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're back with it right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers,
Did you want me to edit that WERF promo?
Oh, I think it just needs music, doesn't it?
I haven't listened to it yet. I haven't got a chance. I was just wondering what you wanted to do with it.
Yeah, if you just put music under it. I heard them. I was driving through there and they're playing an old one. I was like, oh, so. Oh yes, if you could please. Oh my God.
Okay.
That is killing me.
Where were you last night for the show? Noah said you weren't on.
Yeah, I couldn't get it. I couldn't make it on. Technical ass. Oh man, I hurt my elbow. Oh God. Weird. Yep. Todd coming back, and we will be done.
I'm Dane Chandler, Banking Center Manager with Banterra, and with our bank, you get the best of both worlds. Our easy-to-use mobile...
We still have that clip, by the way, if you want to use that.
Oh. Yeah, if Todd's not back with us when we come back, you can play that in.
All seasons bring friends together, and Leroy's Tavern is a place to watch all the games every week with the NFL Sunday Ticket while enjoying $1 Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon Avenue.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Well, come on and let me know. Should I stay or should I go?
Well, we're going to stay for a little bit longer. Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Todd Leary with us today. Todd, how are you, man? What you got going this weekend? It's not quite warm up for golf, brother, but you're down. So you ever take the clubs with you? You don't ever have time, I bet. I didn't hear that question, but anyway, Todd Leary back. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat. Been talking about Indiana's win over Iowa last night. Gigantic win for them. He's back out with you. So what you got planned this weekend? Big weekend coming up. Going to be an early Friday for you, it looks like.
No, it's not. This job actually was finishing up from yesterday, so I'm headed back to get to work today.
Man, hard at it. When you have a game like you had last night late on the road in Iowa, they get back super late. You got to turn around and play again on Sunday relatively early. It's I think it's a 2:00 game, but still, there's like no time to do much of anything in between there.
Well, no, there's not. I mean, there's time to get a little bit of rest, get healthy, get some treatment. You know, that's one of the things you asked me the question earlier. Does it winning a game like that? Does it make me miss playing and want to be out there? And of course, yeah, at the moment it does. But one of the things people don't think about is how badly your body gets beat up in games like that. And I can just remember how sore you are the next morning. Like after the first game of the year, like you never play a game for the rest of the season where you're 100% healthy. Like it just doesn't ever happen. Something hurts on your body all season long. And so, they'll spend the next couple of days getting a little bit of treatment, feeling better, sitting in the ice bucket. But then, Sunday, the early game time is the best. The worst game times ever are a late Sunday evening or afternoon game. Like the 12 or 2 o'clock games on Sunday are the best. Saturday are the absolute best, but those earlier games are the ones you want to play. You don't want to sit around all day and wait to play. So that early game time, that's not early. They'll eat, if the game's at noon or 2, they'll either eat pregame meal at either 9 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock in the morning. It's always 3 hours before the game time. So they'll do that, do a little walkthrough, and then they'll be ready to play.
Hey, I lost you a minute ago when I asked you about the shooting coach. I know it's kind of a dumb thing because you would think that at this level that's not going to happen, but is that something that's ever a possibility to do?
So I gave a really long-winded answer before I realized
we didn't hear any of it.
But let me, I'll start it out by saying this when I know I got connection. It's against the NCAA rules for them to bring in a coaching shooting guru, shot doctor, whatever you want to call him. It is not allowed. So Archie Miller cannot call up Jordan Holes today and say, hey, can you come work with our guys? It's illegal. It's an NCAA violation, which is maybe one of the dumbest rules they absolutely have, because why would you limit players' ability to get better at something? But there are only the coaches that are actually on the staff, and I think it's only the 3 assistant coaches and the head coach are allowed to physically work with the players on the floor. And that's just a dumb NCAA rule, but that's the way that it is. So it's not that the staff wouldn't welcome somebody to come in and help. I guess the only thing I'll say is they've got to work within the constraints of the staff that they have there. And I don't want to call them constraints like it's a negative. I'm just saying it's time for the shooting to get better. So somebody there has got to help them fix it. And I don't know who that's going to be within that staff, but somebody needs to do it because they've got some fundamental errors that need to be fixed. And until they do that, I don't see the shooting stats getting a whole lot better.
Archie claims to have been a shooter in college.
He was. That's Archie could shoot the ball. There's just no. Just because I always say this, and I'm not saying positive or negative about Archie Miller. I'm saying just because you can play basketball or just because you're a shooter doesn't mean you can teach someone how to play or how to shoot. And not everybody that's a good shooter is good at teaching other people how to do it, and vice versa. You don't have to be a great shooter to kind of be able to teach people how to do it. Now, I definitely think it helps, but some people just see it. And I happen to claim that one of my gifts and abilities is to be able to look at somebody that's a shooter and not change their shot completely, but give them some little things that could definitely help their percentages and their consistency at shooting the ball well. And I don't think everybody has that ability to do that. And that's just, I think that's one of the gifts God gave me. And I'm fortunate enough I can watch a guy shoot and be able to tell you right away a couple things he could do to improve.
I don't think Jay Edwards is probably a great teacher of shooting, but God, he's a great shooter. I think it's a perfect point. Ever, yeah. But I agree with exactly. I don't think that he could relay that because it's such natural and God given that the mechanics is probably lost to him. I'm not saying that negatively on Jay. I think that's just a great example that his talents are so natural and God given and smooth. You can't teach that. There's some things that can't be taught. But yeah, you're right. And it is sad. It sucks that a school can't even use people that went to school there. I mean, yourself or Jordan Hulls, as you use as an example.
Or AJ Guyton or those guys. I mean, you have AJ on all the time. AJ is a guy who could help them as well, but it's just simply not allowed. I mean, it's you have to be able to think, okay, there's got to be a loophole. I'm sure Kentucky doesn't adhere to that rule and all that. I'm sure Kentucky doesn't adhere to that rule either. I agree with you, but that doesn't mean Indiana's going to break the rule just because other people do it. And it sucks. It's a dumb, stupid, ridiculous rule, but it's a rule.
Yeah, it even goes to like the position that Calvert used to have and that Derek Elston used to have. I don't think they can work with him either, can they?
The rules change. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I mean the rules change in the off season. During the actual season, it's like it's a little more strict than it is in the off season. I think those guys can work with them in the off season from time to time, but from actually being on the court during the season, that is not allowed. I'm pretty sure it's only the 3 assistant coaches and the head coach are allowed to physically work with the players on the court during the season.
Yeah, and like you said, it is crazy. But during the season, I guess I understand you want to keep, I guess, things as fluid or all outsiders out, I guess. But I don't know. It would seem like with a school, if you're a former player, you should be able to come and go as you please as a former player. I think that should just be something that's a lifelong thing. If Isaiah Thomas wants to come in and work with him, he should be able to. And it doesn't matter what school it is. It should be any school. But I think it's absolutely ridiculous that former players can't do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'll tell you, one of the things Coach Knight used to do, and I say this all the time, and it was one of the best things that ever happened at Indiana. It's one of the best things Coach Knight did for us. Was he would bring in people from all facets of life. I remember we met Dwayne Lucas, who's a horse trainer down in Kentucky in the Kentucky Derby, and we met Tony La Russa from the St. Louis Cardinals. He would bring in different people. Red Auerbach came in, Larry Bird. Like he would bring in all these different people, and not only would they would sit down with a guy and talk to him about. They would sit down with a Calvert Chaney one-on-one and say, hey, these are the things I think you can do and work on. And these are the things that help me be great. Or Red Auerbach talking about these are the things that some of the best players in the history of the game did to get better and all that. That's illegal now. That's not allowed by the NCAA. And think about how ridiculous that is. Like that just some of the rules when I get on the NCAA about how negative it is in a lot of things. That's what I'm talking about. Like I'm not trying to just be a jerk about it. But I mean, some of the rules make no sense, and to limit those kind of things, which I would consider some of the most valuable things I ever learned and got to be a part of at IU, is no longer allowed by the NCAA, and that's a ridiculous joke.
I agree with everything you've said, man. It's been great. I've had a blast today. Thank you so much. I hate to end it with some bad news. Just saw that Hank Aaron dies at 86, man.
Who is it?
Hank Aaron, 86 years old. Hank Aaron, man. Well, he was just a great, great guy. I don't think he ever hit 50 home runs in a season. By the way, man, he was one of the greats. But it's been a fun time here, man. Todd, I can't thank you enough, brother. Look forward to doing it again Sunday. Back at it. Breakfast, you got me all fired up for Breakfast Club now at Yogi's. But
you and me both. I'll be there. I know that.
You be safe. Have safe travels. And everyone else the same. Go out and do something nice for somebody. Please make sure you wear your mask. I even got mine right here. Have a great day. And until Sunday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio. Thank you, sir.
You got it. I'll
Be
see you
safe,
Sunday.
bro.